All right, beautiful. What's up, everybody? Welcome to CGTV. I'm here. This is not Chris. This is my youngest brother, TJ. TJ, welcome.
Thank you.
So, TJ, tell everybody, what do you do for work?
So I own a company called, am I supposed to look there?
Yeah, you look wherever you want.
I own a company called Charlotte Backyard Ponds right here in Charlotte. Sorry, fidgety. And we build, maintain, and renovate water features, ponds, pondlesses, stuff like that right here in Charlotte. So
I brought TJ on. If you've listened to our podcast, you heard the first month of January, February, where we talked about how everything was going, and the idea, the goal was to have a monthly podcast, just checking in on how the first year of business is going. You got busy, and then now it's the end of August before we got you back.
Yep.
So
I think we've done 2.
Yeah, we did January, February.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So tonight is going to be kind of talking through if you own a business, you know, and you watch this, which is most likely all of you. You know what that first year was like, or at least you probably think back to it a little bit. So tonight we're going to be kind of recapping what the first 8 months of TJ's business has looked like, the wins, the losses, and where we go from here.
Yep.
Cool. So recap your first 8 months in business. What have you learned? What's been the high and the low, and what'd you learn? Without moving.
The high would definitely be, we had a huge construction project that we landed from scratch, I would call it, from an online lead, and it just felt like the perfect project from start to finish. So they reached out. I got an email at 7 o'clock at night from the submission form online, texted them at 8 to send over just basic information about everything. The very next day, we set up a phone call. I was in their yard that night, walked out with a deposit check for 18 grand. And then through the project, they loved everything. They signed on for bonuses. We were very communicative. They're super happy with everything. Ongoing maintenance, all that kind of stuff, exact timeline, follow-up, everything like that. They did stream, patio, we did landscaping, and now we're doing lighting. So they're literally just getting the full special, and we hit our profit margins of 50% on the whole thing.
And how big of a project was it?
55.4.
55.4 when it's all said and done?
Yeah, well, not including lighting, which is 6 also, which is another 6.
So you're probably at 6,100, 61 grand for this client.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was cool about working with them? Why is that the high, or is the high just the money?
The high is because it was very difficult. I mean, it's a very large project, and for a lot of the project, there was just 3 to 4 guys the whole time. And me being the only person who's ever worked on a large-scale project or done a patio or a stream or anything like that. So it was great to see that we could do it, especially in, we didn't really get into people's yards until April. So for us to do that project in, I think, halfway through June, to do a big project like that in your 3rd month and kind of knock it out of the park, I think, was really fun. I think the guys had a really fun time, and there were definitely highs and lows within the project, but everybody kept chugging along, and it was difficult for them to see or to know what was ahead when we were kind of struggling with stuff. But then at the end, they're like, okay, I get it. The bad stuff was worth it. And now we're all relaxing, having a pizza party, drinking wine with the homeowners, just chatting about a bunch of stuff. So that, yeah, just the fact that we could even do it, and then obviously the money is just the cherry on top.
Cool, love it. The low. What's been the hardest part about your first 8 months, entrepreneurship-wise?
I think just the realization of what it actually takes to run a company at a certain expectation level.
No, if you look at the camera, your man's spread.
Oh, man. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Been doing a lot of manual labor. I think just, it's not necessarily low because I'm up for it, but it was eye-opening to see what it really takes to run a business that I think covers all your bases as far as customer experience, employee experience, operations, marketing, accounting, like everything that goes into running what I would think is a top-notch company is a lot.
What do you mean?
Like, there's always something to be done. Like, so even today, or most days, we'll do like an 8 to 10 hour day in the field, and I get home and there's data entry, there's social media to upload, there's the garage to clean, there's the truck to organize, there's customers to reach out to. Like, there's always something that you can be doing, which is just surprising, but it's not a negative, I would say, because that's the point, is to live the lifestyle.
What do you mean it's surprising? Like, did you not think that this was going to be a thing, or did you just not expect it to be a thing to this level?
Probably to this level.
Uh-huh.
Like, I knew that there would always be stuff that you could do, like, but it's like, oh, okay, like I can kind of put that off. But now it's like, okay, like if I really want this thing to be the way that I want it to be, I can't put this stuff off. Like, I have to be doing it. So the first couple of months, I was definitely, like, from when we got into people's yards, actually, I was definitely kind of like coasting and just being like, just happy that we're at least have work in the field. And I'm like, okay, the other stuff will kind of catch up. And then we got a few months in and I'm like, oh crap, like I can't be putting off anything. Like, I need to be looking ahead now and being prepared so that when we go through the year, we'll have enough work, or we're at least just doing the things that we're supposed to be doing in order to be a professional company.
Like what? Like, what do you feel like you guys need to be doing more of right now to make yourselves look or actually be a more professional company?
Well, right now, what we need to be doing is like getting ready for our contracts. So like the best part about my business, as far as from a business standpoint, is recurring revenue. So you do maintenance contracts, and for us getting this first year, sending out fall contracts, like that could be, we're banking on, at least 10 to 15 grand worth of work coming just from fall contracts. But in order for them to know about it, you have to send out the contracts, which means what I'm doing right now is getting my customer database together, all the basic information, as well as what their services cost, and putting all that into a spreadsheet so then I can automate that to go onto contracts, print all those out, mail those out, as well as email them with enough time ahead of time. Like, I can't send it out mid-September because everybody wants it done. Like, we're blocked off for October. The first week in October is when we're going to be doing all this maintenance. So if I get it to people the third week in September, then there's not enough time to get everybody's money back or answer questions, because it's also going to be setting the precedent of, like, everybody right now wasn't explored. All my cleanings or maintenance, at least, was all either design services, which like has money that rolls into other money, or it's 50% down, 50% when we're complete. But the standard for a company, as far as how I'm going to run it, is prepayment. So you give me the $990, and then you're on the schedule, and we're good to go, and we clean your pond in a month or so. And like, it kind of takes a bit of trust on the customer's part to send you that money ahead of time and know that you're going to be there. So I think doing it this first go around, I'm probably going to be getting maybe pushback, but just questions as far as like, hey, am I really supposed to be just sending you my credit card information like a month ahead of time? Like, I'm like, yep, this is how it is. But like, and navigating those sorts of things. So right now, that's what we're going through this week. When we get home from work, is dealing with all that.
So it's my first couple years in business where I worked all the fucking time. It was 10, 12-hour days during the week, typically 12, like Monday through Thursday, sometimes 13, and then Friday was typically about an 8-hour day, then Saturday, Sunday were about 8-hour days as well. For you, and for me, and I was just talking to them out there, Mike and Allie. Allie woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, got some work done, and she was like, it was great, it was quiet. And I was like, that was literally how I ran the first couple of years of business for me, was during the daytime, was literally like talking to clients, trying to sell, working with the team, all that kind of stuff. And then nights and weekends were when I actually was able to get the work done, because it was quiet, I could focus, there wasn't all this extra stuff and communication that needed to happen. Yeah. I could finally sit down and just work. So right now, how are you doing when it comes to coming home? Because when you're in the field, you're in the field. Like you
Yeah.
can take photos and do some of the marketing stuff, maybe answer a couple phone calls, but when you get home, I mean, I'd imagine you're exhausted. And then you got to do sales calls and put numbers in and all the shit that you don't want to do. How are you doing with that?
I was doing horribly for a while there. Like I was like, screw this, I'll just do it when I have time. And then luckily we've been finding out there's no time. Like
there is no time.
We've been busy. So it's nice. But I'm slowly, as I do it more, I don't actually not look forward to it. Like it's nice. It's like stress relieving to put in your numbers and to know that you're knocking stuff off slowly rather than having to backtrack for a couple months worth of finances and figure out where all your money is and this and that. So,
because for me, it's a control thing. Like whenever I'm like, oh shit, like I wonder how everything's going. When I go back to the money and I crunch the numbers and I see, okay, if we have X amount of clients drop off, we're still covered, all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's a control thing. Is it the same for you when it comes to like understanding the money of it, or is it more so just like you're just knocking off a thing that you know you got to do, but it just feels like a chore?
No, it does. I mean, it's a task, but it's not a chore. But it is more just reassuring because like before I did all my expenses and numbers and everything like that, I was like pretty down on like how much, I'm here with Kyle and like this is the show right here. So like 2 guys can only do so much per day. Now we're busy every day. Most days are paying days, but I come from Premier where they have 8 or 9 guys, and so we had a quota of $7,500 a day if we're doing construction, $3,000 a day if you're doing maintenance and this and that. And so like right now for us, like our quota every day is $2,200 is the goal for us to be able to generate that much every single day. And we've hit it a decent amount. Like last week we had a 4.5 day project and it was 13.5. So, and I mean, this project we're on right now, it's 2,200 and it'll take us 2 days. So it's like hit or miss kind of thing, but we're just giving up time. But I stress like, okay, we need to be making more every day, more every day, more every day. Now, obviously, that can't be done too much with just 2 guys. Like that would mean bringing in another guy. But looking back through my numbers and putting everything in and knowing that like, okay, this is actually, it's not where we need to be one day, but we're getting there. And like the train is leaving the station, grabbing traction, and I am actually kind of being able to pay off a lot of the initial investment that I had to make from last year.
And with you right now, as you're going through it, do you feel like you're building momentum? Do you feel like, well, first off, do you feel like you're building momentum within the business?
Yep.
How do you know that you are? How did you come to the understanding that you do feel like you are?
Being booked out further and further, I would say, is one thing. Obviously, I think it was Kyle that kind of made the point because we were talking about a landscaping company one time and they're like, oh, we can't take anybody on until November. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And he was like, no, that means they don't know how to hire. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. So we're booked right now. We're booking for October, which feels great. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, if I get more and more work, I just need to hire somebody and then we can squeeze everything in. So being booked out further is a good thing. I've had multiple visits from existing customers. So somebody who maybe we did a cleaning and then they called back again and they're like, hey, I actually want to do those things that we talked about. So getting that recurring revenue from existing clients feels good. And all these renovations and construction projects and stuff that we do, well, most of them, everybody is super happy and their first question is like, okay, what is our relationship like to keep this going? Which is the whole goal.
Right.
Like if I can just build or renovate, 10 to 30 one day projects every year, then every single year that's 10 to 30 new maintenance customers that I'm going to be adding to my database, along with all the Zillow customers and just Google people, which I'm getting more and more of my submissions online. It says, how did you find us? And it just says Google.
And how much of this do you feel, momentum-wise, is simply time in the pocket? Like, the only way to get people to buy again is to get them to buy the first time. compared to how much of this is you, where you were very, I mean, even on the podcast when we had you on in January, February, you were very passive, live and let live, like, yep,
Yeah.
you know, how much of it is you actually going, damn, I need to be doing these things, and like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, compared to time in the pocket and it was going to happen no matter what?
I mean, obviously there's a little bit of both. Like if we go and we do an exploratory or we do a design service and we impress them, then, you know, maybe some people are just slow decision makers and then it's just going to happen. I would say we are definitely doing a lot of things to like put ourselves out there as far as Zillow and just paying for marketing and things like that. Like I've spent like 35 grand on marketing alone. So like I'm putting in the money, and like obviously that means that y'all are sending out things and my Google listing is doing well and stuff like that. So, and there's another company here that's really big and they do well and stuff, and we've had a decent amount of phone calls where they're like, yeah, we talked to them, but it wasn't really doing it for us. Like, let's talk to you, and then they go with us. So that's also just more validation on like, okay, we can walk the walk. And like before, like in February and stuff, I had no validation whatsoever because I was just, you know, 60 grand in the hole. Nobody had called me yet, but I wasn't doing any of the things necessary either. Also time of year, like February is not really going to be a hot time of year. So I think time of year, but also just like kind of finally being like, all right, like it's time to get your head in the game and doing stuff.
What do you wish you would have known or done, let's say this time last year, knowing you were probably going to start this company? Is there anything that you would have practiced or done differently coming into this?
Well, I mean, yeah, I didn't know that I was going to start this company until like, I think September of last year is when I decided to do it.
Okay, you're right, because it is August 29th today.
Sorry, okay, yeah. So the idea of starting my own company didn't even pop into my head until like September of last year. But anyways, I did a lot of sales training at Premier and back there and everything, and I have stopped with doing that, which I definitely regret. Like, it's not only, like, obviously, like riding a bike, you need to just like keep riding the bike to stay up to practice, but there have been so many times here where like I get a sales call and I go through it and not like fuck it up, but like it just doesn't go as well as I wish it would have, or like I'm like, oh, I could ask this question or this and that, and they're all when I asked when I was doing it at Premier, but when it's, you know, just for fun to me, because I was getting paid like crazy back then, and all that kind of stuff, and living with mom and dad, like not much rent kind of thing, there wasn't much pressure. But now there's like pressure, like I need to not only be bringing in money for myself, but for my guys, and, you know, paying rent and being able to live. So there's a lot more pressure, so that it psychs you out of it more. So if I had been, you know, 10 times as prepared, then maybe I would actually be doing a solid job. It's
very different when your money's on the line.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrifying.
Because now,
yeah.
I remember that at Indeed, when I, like on my first call, like first like legit sales call that I had with somebody, the first time I like told them the price, and I was like, my voice was shaking and wavering, and like it was very obvious I was nervous to say it because it was the first time ever doing it. And it's because when it's your money and it's like you're directly having an impact, which again at Premier is like, you know, whether or not you were going to get a commission on it, but it's nothing like what it is now.
No.
Because like at Premier, the downside of not making that sale is you just miss out on that extra money. The downside here on missing out on that sale is what?
I don't make any money.
You don't make any money.
Yeah.
And you got to still pay the bills to make that shit go.
Yeah. So I'm getting a lot more comfortable with it, I would say, fairly quickly. Like before, like somebody, I'd look at my phone, it says 704, and I'm just like, please don't be a customer. Please don't be a customer.
Oh, really?
Like kind of, yeah. Like
depending
on the situation that I was in, I was just like, I just don't want to deal with this right now. Like this is going to be so stressful. I'm going to mess it up, like blah, blah. And now like I get a call and like you just got to answer your phone and you just go through the process, ask questions. Directing people to the website is always a nice deferment if they've got no idea what's going on. So now like fielding phone calls and talking to customers and stuff I think is pretty normal.
How are you with customers? Like, are you going above and beyond and like trying to like jump through hoops? Are you pretty much, because, you know, coming from listening to like Dad's advice with a lot of stuff, it would be very much like, oh, well, just if they're not the right fish, just tell them to go away. And I was like, well, that works when you get a couple thousand leads a year.
Yeah.
But when you're brand new and you have nothing else to do, it's like maybe you do go a little bit more above and beyond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess there's going above and beyond as far as like providing a better customer experience, or going above and beyond as far as like relenting on some of the things that I shouldn't be.
For example, like you have a project, like what is your profit margin goal? 50%? Mm-hmm. And you have a client that you're about to do a job for 45%. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because so we've talked, like he just set that at his budget. He's like, I cannot do any more than that, but like we have to solve his problem, and so the cheapest that I can do it for is at that 45% profit margin. But I'm like, it's not like I'm pushing other 50% profit margin projects out of the way. Like I got nothing to do that week, kind of thing. And if somebody calls me and that delays my schedule 1 week, so I tell them the third week in October versus the second, that's not going to be the big difference maker. So it's not like there's not really like opportunity cost versus other customers.
I see.
And then also like he is on board for ongoing maintenance and everything like that. So if I make 45% in just this like 4-day project, but I think I'm going to be able to tack on the fall netting while we're there. So that's also going to throw on a few $100. So it very well could get us to our 50% profit in the project itself. Like people usually add stuff on once they start getting things going. But then he'll be a recurring maintenance customer for life, and
which is worth it.
I think it's worth that.
That's 100% worth it.
And also, it's like, okay, 45%. It's like I'm still making, like, we're still doing a 4-day project, and we're gonna make $4,200, which is like just profit. So it's like most people, when they bend over backwards or stuff like that, like it's like to break even, or like you might be even losing money. So it's like even right now, like our losses are like still profit makers. They're just not the ideal profit maker.
And when it comes to the sales and it comes to communicating with clients and stuff like that, have you gotten comfortable with it? Like, I know you said you're going through it, but like, is it now at this point, like, you know what, like the client's calling, or do you still kind of have that? Because for me, what would happen, especially early on, is if I saw a text or an email or a phone call from a client, I just assumed, oh wow, they're done. This is their cancellation call, and they'd be like, hey, just want to talk about, you know, more strategy stuff, and it was fine. Are you at that point, or is it still like anytime a client calls you, you're like, uh-oh?
The only time that I get nervous from a client calling me is when they've signed up for stuff and we haven't done the work yet. So like that was like my big thing with the big project that we sold. Like they gave me a check for 18 grand and we left, and I was like, they're gonna call back and cancel. Like I just know it. Like that's all it is. And so that's kind of the same thing now. Like we sold our biggest maintenance contract to date just like 2 weeks ago. It's $2,300 cleaning, which is a lot for us. And she called back 2 days later, and I saw the number, and I was like, ah, shit. Like, she's going to cancel. And she was just like, hey, I just can't do that day. Is there any other day that we can do? And so I bumped her up a week, and now she's super thrilled. So, but the only time I get nervous is when they call if we haven't completed the work yet.
Do you think you'll ever get over it?
Probably.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like there would definitely be a time also when it's like I have 300 cleanings to do and somebody's like, hey, I actually want to cancel. And I'm like, cool, because I got 299 other people who are fully paid up and they're excited for the opportunity to have us clean their pond.
What has surprised you the most about running your own company?
I mean, now Kyle's full-time, so I have somebody with me every day who sees it all and is a part of it all and doing it all. But before that, like, it's very lonely. Like, that was my biggest surprise, is like everybody will cheer for you on social media and this and that, and they're like, oh, you're doing great and stuff, but like at the end of the day, like, it's just you. And like there are a lot of days the first 3, 4, 5 months that I was just by myself, which it's just a lot to have to do yourself. And while people are sitting there cheering for you and stuff, like they're not in the trenches with you. Like you're the only one down there. So it's just very stressful and lonely. But like now I got Kyle with us full time, and kind of over the loneliness factor.
For me, it's still, even though I've got a team, it still is lonely, because it still is. At the end of the day, it's on you.
Yeah.
You got to deal with whatever's coming at you. Finding other business owners to talk to about this shit. Like, I talk about this all the time, but like with EO, I love it because like I'm in this group with other people that are some my age, some are in their 60s, and we all own a business, and like they may be talking about like, we had a supply chain, like we don't really have supply chain issues with what we do because like we're all internet based. I guess our only supply chain issue would be like if, I don't know, internet went down and then we're like, oh, we got to wait till the internet comes back up to do work. Like that would be the only thing. But for us, man, it's just like we don't have that. But I hear like these other people in these groups that are like, I'm having supply chain issues and this is what I'm dealing with. And like, even if I've never dealt with that myself, like I can't empathize, but I can sympathize with like the feeling or the emotion that they have. Or like when we talk about like we'll have somebody in they'll say, oh, like I'm dealing with a client that's saying this. I'm like, well, I've never actually had somebody complain about, my shipping costs because I don't have any shipping, but I have had people that complain about this and this is how I dealt with it. So it's like the loneliness factor of it, even if it's not something going through the exact same thing that you have gone through, you still have the opportunity to at least bring up like, hey, I get it. I've been there. This is what I've done. And it's nice to like have that person to hear it and understand it. And like, I love Audrey, but there's only so much I can talk to her about where she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, because it's just like, does she get it? Mm-hmm. Like when I say something like about, oh, I'm dealing with this, she's like, well, why would you ever deal with that? Like, why don't you just tell them no? And I'm like, because I can't.
Just talk to your boss.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't have any of that shit.
Option.
So the loneliness, I have found, and I think they've had studies that come out that have kind of said like 3 is like the ideal number of like founders to go in, because there's typically like, I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's like you have one that's like the promotion person, one's like the back office person, and one is like the product person or whatever it is. And that's like the perfect combo. But when it's you.
Yeah.
And you're all of it. Mm-hmm. So have you thought about like, let me partner up, let me find somebody else, to kind of share the burden a bit? Or is it just at this point you're like, it's me, it's lonely, I'll deal with it?
I mean, I've thought about it, but it also to me like seems like the easy way out, like if I did that. And not that I'm like all, ego and I want this to be me and I'm self-made, like blah, blah, like, no, like my dad bought my car, like I'm not self-made. Like, it's nothing crazy like that, but I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I've been going through it to the point where I'm like, if I did that, like, I can do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of if I can do it, it's just I have to do it. So there have been conversations with other companies and things and people like that about partnering up and becoming one company or delegating, okay, you guys deal with the back office stuff, I'm just going to do this. Like, but like this stuff, and then I think about it and I'm like, okay, I'd have to give up X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, it's just lazy to me in my mind, like if I did that. Because like I have the ability to do it all. So I might as well do that and then reap the rewards. So
with that, would you rather, because technically you could say, well, all the Google stuff, Logan, I know you guys do it, but this is my lazy way out. How do you determine?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
But why? But you could make that same argument.
If there's somebody, like the numbers have to also back it up. Like the stuff that somebody would be partnering up for me with would be like doing the accounting and doing the scheduling and the operations and this and that. And like those are all things that I'm very good at that. Like when I put my mind to it and I focus on them, like I'm very good at those things. Like Google, SEO, like all those marketing and everything, like that would just be so much for me to take on, and I would not be able to do it nearly as well as a company that focuses solely on that. So like there's definitely things to delegate and not just take on absolutely everything. But if there's something that I'm like, all right, I can do this, it'd be nice if I didn't have to, but if I give this to somebody else, then I have to give up these things too. Nah, that's just lazy. I'll just step it up and do what I'm supposed to do.
How much like admin work do you do a week?
What do you mean?
Like the job costing, let's say calling back clients, like
I mean,
updating QuickBooks.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to measure because it's like you get various phone calls and this and that, but I mean, it's got to be no less than like 6 or 8 hours every week of like talking to clients, going through expenses for the week, which now that's how we do it, is every week I sit down and do it. I don't know if you count like just general office work, organizing and making sure, like taking stock of what we have in the garage, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that counts.
Like that's my weekends.
Do you enjoy
those
that, or
things.
do you feel like it's like,
Yeah.
fuck, I got to do it?
Nah, it's like the hard part, I don't know, like for me, like the hard hierarchy of things would be, one is like managing people. 2 would be like making sure all your customers are communicated to properly and taken care of and feeling taken care of. And then 3 is like the actual labor and all that kind of stuff. And so if I can just do that stuff, like if I have an easy cleaning, and now Kyle's with me all the time, but like if I had an easy cleaning and it was just me, like the customer is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this by yourself. And I'm like, I love it. Like if I know I have to do everything, so I know if I didn't do it, then it's not done. So it's like I don't have to tell somebody else to do it. I don't have to do this or that. Like, it's like therapeutic.
So what I've found, for me at least, has been doing the actual work. It's mindless.
Yeah.
When you're cleaning, are you stressed?
No.
Because you got to get it done, and it's like, let's say with diving, when you jump off 10 meter and you got to do a back 3.5, are you worried about grades in school?
No, usually.
No, because you're like focused on like, let me not kill myself on this thing.
Yeah.
So when you're cleaning, it's mindless, it's nice and easy.
Yeah.
What I've had to do is when I get into these mindless places where it's like the work is just easy, you just kind of roll with it, is the game for me had to change. So it had to go from, let's say, like with, like I talk about this all the time with Chris, like at first I loved sales. Like I was like, I want to sell, I want to keep hopping on the phone. I like the game, I like the challenge because I was in it. Then the game, when Chris came on and a couple other salesmen, became, okay, can I get them to sell? How good of a teacher am I? So at first it was, how good of a salesman am I? Then it became, how good of a teacher can I be? And then it flips over to, how good of a manager can I be? So the game keeps kind of changing, where for you it might be at first like, I love cleaning ponds because it's mindless, it's simple, it's fun. And then it might become, okay, the game is how well can I teach somebody else to clean this pond? And then the game becomes, how well can I teach somebody to teach somebody else how to clean a pond? Because then they're a maintenance crew leader, and then now you don't have to deal with it. That stuff's just rolling. You got to check in on stuff.
Yeah.
So for you, or at least for me, I'm sorry, it was a lot of like, whatever I love, it then just becomes, the game kind of has to change, and I obsessed over, I went from reading books like Never Split the Difference and stuff, which is all like sales and negotiation, to like Sales Management Simplified, which is all sales training and sales management. So it just became like, that was my new obsession, was how do I manage this, not how do I actually do it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, now my thing is like, yeah, I know how to clean a pond. I can do it really well. And now it's like I have Kyle full time, so we're going to be doing a lot of pond cleanings together, which means he's going to be getting a lot more reps. So how can we, Kaizen? How can we just be improving together as a team on every single cleaning? And so, because now it's like I don't have to just be like, okay, I'm power washing, then I'll do this next. It's like, okay, I'm power washing. What can Kyle be doing properly in the background so that it's all efficient and moving? So 2 guys are worth 3 guys, and this and that. So us just getting better and better at every single cleaning is like my first focus now, because I mean I've cleaned like maybe 1,000 ponds at least, and I think he's cleaned like 10. So it's just reps. And every single time we're gonna run into a new problem, which is good. Like you make mistakes over and over, but different mistakes, and I'm cool with that. So just tackling those mistakes one cleaning at a time and just improving a little bit every single time is kind of what I'm focusing on right now.
And then one of the things that in your first year, I mean, having that big project, the 61 grand project, like that's an awesome, like in your first year, like that's big. Like I think it took Premier 15 years, 14 years to like land a project like up front that was that big. Mm-hmm. You also have the low end, this now tough client that you're having to deal with all in your first year. Essentially within like 3 months. Mm-hmm. So what's the basic backstory of that and how are you handling it? Because when I was talking to you about it, I was like, oh my God. I was like, this sucks.
No, so she's a client that we did a design service for. She's all the way up in Hickory, so an hour away. And just kind of odd, I guess, but very nice, very like we got along fine. I thought we communicated perfectly fine. We had a game plan moving forward. We fast forward to doing her renovation. She's making us food the whole time. She's super happy with everything. She's giving us minor corrections on where to move rocks here and there because she had a vision in her head, but we accommodated on all of those, and I was like, that's a great call moving that rock there. Like, I love it. Like, doing all the right things. And she made a small accusation when we were there that we had like a bucket of her rocks on the truck, and I was like, oh, let me go look, and like there was a bucket of her rocks near the truck, but it wasn't on the truck. But I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like we must have just accidentally moved that over there, but I'll bring it right back and we'll use it, which is what we did. And then she was like, well, you have more rocks on the truck there too. And I was like, well, those are just extra rocks that we brought in case we needed them, but because you said you're happy with everything, like we don't need the rocks there. So this is just kind of like our stock rock. And she was like, okay, like that's fine, and let us use rocks in her landscaping in the pond and all these different things. Then fast forward to the next day, she calls and she's like, I was good to you. And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, for you to steal from me, like that is, I know you, I know what you do. You go to everybody's projects and you steal a little bit here and there, and that's how you make your extra money, and you made a lot of money off of me, and you didn't have to buy any supplies, and I'm like, okay, I spent it ended up being like a $9 grand project. I spent $3,000 on just the materials, like for the pond kit and the liner and everything like that. Did everything to a T on the contract, everything. She started naming like random things that we stole, like this like shingle material that like we have like things that we have no use for. Mm-hmm. Like I could not use it in any facet of my business. And she's like, well, you just use it on your personal pond. And I'm like, I don't have a personal pond. And she was like, don't you have a personal pond? I'm like, no, I don't have one. And she was like, well, if you did, you would. And I'm like, did I do something that makes you think that I steal things or that I'm a bad person or anything? And she's like, don't give me that. I know you. And I'm just like, what? Like, it's just arguing with somebody that cannot be argued with. Like, and it's not argue. I'm just like trying to get to the bottom of it. And she'll like say something crazy. Like, the new one she had her sister-in-law call me last night with her and her fiance in the background. And like try to reason or talk to me more. I think it was like kind of an intimidation thing, because she's like, she left me a voicemail because it was a random area code, so I didn't answer. And she was like, this is so-and-so calling on behalf of the person. So please give me a call. But I just wanted to confirm that you're coming back to do some work. Otherwise, we will be taking this matter further. Thank you. And then I call back, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm her sister-in-law. And I'm like, you're totally just sitting there trying to sound like a lawyer or somebody who knows what they're doing or something. And go back a little bit. After the first conversation, I was like, Jennifer, is there anything that I can do to make you happy? Like, I can't return what I didn't steal. And she's like, I have pictures of rocks. And I'm like, okay, what pictures of rocks? And she's like, the boulder on this one. And I'm like, oh, the boulder right there? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's in your waterfall on the second drop on the right side. And she was like, well, that's not where it was. And I'm like, yeah, I know. We moved the boulder into the waterfall because that's where it can be seen better. And she's like, well, you should have just put the rocks back where they were. And I was like, well, we're supposed to rework the rocks so that you don't see liner, and we're building you a new waterfall, so I have to move some of the rocks around. And I told you that everything's not going to go back the exact way it was, which is the whole point. And she's like, well, there are other rocks too, and I have pictures. And I was like, all right, well, what else can, like, and she's talking about this, like, liner that's showing, even though in the contract it says there will be liner showing because it's a rubber liner bottom pond. She didn't want rocks inside of it, so obviously you're going to see liner. And she's just going on and on about this liner, and she's crying, and I'm like, so how about if I come out and I build you a whole new wall with new rocks that I bring in and hide all that liner for you? How does that sound? And she was like, well, if you come hide that liner, then I'll forget about all the things that you stole. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm not doing this for you to deflect your attention from the things you think we stole. I'm doing this to show you that, like, if I stole something, and this is a question that I'm going to ask you when I get there, it's like, okay, let's go through this. You think I stole? Yes. Why did I steal? Because you're selfish and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, if I was a selfish person and this and that, would I be shelling out hundreds of dollars to come all the way back up here and do something that was not even required in the contract just to make you happy? Like, why would I be so one end of the spectrum evil and so one end of the spectrum accommodating all in one person? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So we're going back on Thursday to build this wall for her. But she called last night and threw on 2 more things that we stole, which she didn't even have. One of them she calls, they're bio balls, which is what's a filtration material. And she had an old filter, and we didn't even break it down or anything. We set it aside, and they broke it down themselves at night and moved everything around and stuff. So, like, we never even got in there. And then 2, with her new filtration system, I put in new bio balls, and I was like, oh, these are bio balls. And she's like, oh, yeah, I've seen those before. So it's like, she said everything was happy when we were there, paid in full. Is there anything else that we can do for you today? Nope, this is great. It's beautiful. I love it. Like, I've been waiting so long for this, like, all these things. She gave us plants, like, all this stuff. And then she just every time she calls, she throws on a new thing that we stole. And I'm just like, if we had stolen these bio balls, like, when I'm putting in your new bio balls, and she said she knew about all the thievery when we were there, she just didn't want to say anything.
So just as a whole, emotionally, how does, like, for you, how does that feel?
It's just so frustrating.
Like, what, like, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there, but
it's
like.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah, like, what is the most frustrating part about it all?
Well, the fact that she says, I knew about all of it, but I just didn't say anything while you were there because I didn't want to, but now I have to put my foot down and say it. Now what she's doing is then going to her fiance and her brother and her sister-in-law and saying, he did all these things, blah, 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 because if in the moment she said, you stole from me and you're stealing these things, I could be like, okay, let's go look in the truck. Like, if you're saying I stole these things, 1, show me evidence that you ever had these things.
Right.
And then 2, let's go in the truck. Like, if you think I stole them, let's go look. And I could easily show that I'm not stealing anything. But what she's doing is going after the fact to where I can't prove anything, because even if I send all the pictures of my materials and everything like that I have at the house, they're just going to think that I'm hiding them out of the picture. Like, so she's not, she waited to accuse me of these things once I couldn't prove otherwise.
So on this then, I mean, because, like, read Crucial Conversations, but one of the things with Crucial Conversations, which for y'all out there that don't know what it is, it's an entire way on how to approach a tougher conversation with somebody. And the idea is that the framework that it goes state your intent, give 3 facts, 2 to 4 facts, and then do like a emotional summary, and then pass the ball to their court. Meaning, when you come at it and I go, look, TJ, straight up, man, like, I want CBP to be like the best pond company in Charlotte. Like, just like you, I want this stuff to work. Right now, we haven't posted on Facebook very much. We haven't sent out door hangers, and we haven't called back any past customers, from the data that we have. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to feel like I'm in this battle for CBP alone. How do you view it? And that would be how you do it, where you lead off with the intent to get both people on the exact same page. And then you go through the facts, and you don't do it with like a spin on, and I think you're doing this. I think it's straight up. It's like, hey, T, like, I want you to crush it here at CGN. yesterday you were 10 minutes late, and last week you were late 3 out of the 5 days. And I'm starting to worry that if you're late, you're also missing deadlines within work. What's going on? So that's the framework to do it. Now, there's a caveat to all this, and that is this will work if it is a rational conversation.
Yeah.
Which this doesn't sound like it.
No.
But in the future, it is the intent. You then hit the facts, you summarize the story, because what most people do is we go right into the story immediately. TJ, you were late again, man. Do you even care about working here? Like, that immediately just, like, from a defense mechanism,
Yeah.
do you go, oh, great point.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so that's the framework on how to do
Yeah.
it. And then if they freak out and go, well, that's not it, you go, I'm sorry. Like, then you re-engage with the intent again. I'm sorry. It probably came across I was trying to nitpick you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to nitpick you. I'm simply trying to figure out what's going on. Like, I want to make sure we're on the same page. And then they're cool with it.
Yeah, and I've done that with her on the phone to a certain extent, to where I'm like, look, all I want to do is make you happy, and I want to feel like you got your money's worth, and I want you to be happy with your pond. So this is what we're working with. Like, you know, everything that we did so far is exactly what was outlined in the contract. We talked about it ahead of time, and as far as the stealing things go, like, I can't do anything other than promise you that I didn't steal anything.
Yeah.
What can I do from here to make you happy? And then she just goes off on random tangent and like, don't give me that, like this and that.
So it's not a rational
I've been
thing.
treated so shitty by contractors in the past, and you guys think this and that. I don't even want anybody in my home. I can't even go outside. And I'm like, I literally just gave you like silver platter. You could tell me come redo everything, this and that, and like, I mean, I probably wouldn't do everything, but like, she could just tell me like, hey, bring me a full new pallet of stone, and we'll be good. She's gonna be having way more stone than we allegedly stole.
Right.
And if she said, bring me that and a bag of bio balls, I'm like, okay, done. But like, she's so emotional and focused on this, I think her truth of me stealing, that she can't even have a logical response. And that's the thing, is like last night on the phone, when I talk with the sister-in-law or the fiance cuts in halfway through and he's like, Jennifer said that you were supposed to be using all brand new rocks and you weren't supposed to be using any of her rocks. And I was like, I don't have anything to say to that other than that's completely not true. It is a renovation. We would always reuse your rocks. In the contract, it says rework edge, not replace edge. Like, and we've shown through multiple conversations, we're going to be using your rocks. So for her to say that we were going to be bringing in all totally new rocks is completely not true. And he's just like, he doesn't say anything, because what are you supposed to say to that? Like, that's a logical response.
In hindsight, were there any red flags or anything prior to jumping in that, again, I mean, like there's legit red flags, and there's like, well, now that I think about it, this could make sense.
Nah, she's like, I mean, you get especially in the pawn world, like, you get the quirky, weird customers sometimes, and you know, you learn that when they're happy, they're awesome, and when they're not happy, they suck. But you gotta like kind of live and die by it, because they're gonna be your best customers and your worst customers all wrapped up into one customer. So she's just kind of a weirder lady, you know, but like even when she first called me, I was in the middle of doing something and I was like, hey, like, I'd love to talk about this further. I'm just in the middle of something right now. Can we talk later? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to talk later, but while I got you, and then kept going and paid the money, paid the everything. So it's like,
I wouldn't even say that. Yeah, like
there wasn't anything that like made me think like, okay, she's like a malicious person. Because now I don't even know if like my hunch is like maybe she steals, or maybe she wants to just get free crap out of me. So she's just turning the, like, somebody that steals from people constantly is always going to be.
Sounds like
a schizo. I don't know.
Grandma Meyer.
Yeah. So that's like, if you steal constantly from people, you're always going to think that people are stealing from you. But if you live an honest life, you're just going to think that other people live an honest life. So that's what I think is going on, and that's also why I think she waited until I had already left, so then she could go to her fiance and say, like,
Is what
oh, he
happened.
stole all this stuff from us. And because if she had said that while I was there, the fiance can come out. I'd be like, yo, check the truck. Like, I'll show you everything. Like, we didn't steal from you. And then she just looks like an nincompoop. And, like, there's nothing I can do now other than just sit there and be like, it's my word against yours. You're crazy. But, like, is she still a customer and she still has the power of Google reviews, so I'm just going to kill her with kindness.
How scary is that? Like, we'll
It
wrap all this
sucks.
up because of that, and this is what restaurants have to deal with, where food critics used to be the thing, where, I mean, you've seen Ratatouille, like the movie, like, I think that's, well, not the rat part's legit, but like the food, critic part's legit, but like now with Yelp and social media, it then becomes the average consumer has so much power, and it becomes this he said, she said, and unfortunately, like, there's a lot of times on Google where, like, I mean, you have a fake Google review that some random person came in, said this is the worst pond company, but that's like an entire business where it's like you can bomb people's stuff. Yeah. And now, for as much as it might suck to like have to give back some money or like replace some shit for free, having a review that says, because I can't imagine it's just going to be like a 1 star that's like, this guy's not great. It would be like a...
It's going to be extensive. There's photos, all this stuff. And it's so annoying because it would be one of those things where, like, I could just be like, dude, just meet her and you'll understand that this is fake. But you don't have that option because it's just Google. So
well, you can reply to it, but...
I can reply, but then it's like, how do I do it without being combative?
Right,
like,
without saying straight
But, like,
up,
if she says, oh, they stole from me, they this and that, be like, Jennifer, we had multiple conversations. I came back and did additional work. You said you were happy, this and that, all these things, and you're still going out of your way to post lies. And so, but, like, that doesn't look good online if you meet this lady, like, she's so freaking weird.
Yeah, but
like,
it
doesn't
matter
do anything
because
like,
people don't know that.
People are gonna think she's just like normal mom, like from down the street, and I'm like, no, she's a freaking crazy lady, like up in the mountains, like.
But it's the game that you have to play with all these reviews, and we have clients that have done that where we're like, look, you know what you did at their house, like, don't engage with them because it'll be like, hey, I hired this person and first they were great and then eventually they stopped showing up and this and that. And then instead of just be like, hey, you're right, this is what happened, or hey, this is actually what happened, it's a little bit different. What they will do is they'll go in and be like, and they just, the review is this long and the response is that long because it's like they just take it upon themselves to tell them about every single thing. Well, at the age of 8, my dad did this, and then it like goes all the way up to, and that's why I couldn't show up on the last day. And it's like, hold on. Like, you just took all this baggage, you took all the frustrations of all these customers and wrapped it into this one response to a review that was disproportionate. Plus, now all the other, because like now you got to, if this does happen, which hopefully it doesn't, but if it does happen, then, and honestly, the best bet would be is if she made some sort of derogatory comment about you, because then you can actually go on Google and say, and I've had that before where somebody like made a comment, it was actually a hiring thing. What happened was, it was like 3 of us in the company, and when I was hiring, if you didn't have the right stuff resume-wise, I would just like say, nope, thank you, and then somebody commented and was like, the only review was 1 star, this company will not hire you if you're not a white guy. Because we had on our About Us page just myself, Wayne, and Turner, and that was it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, this is a review? So I flagged it because that's what, and said, this is hate speech, and Google actually took it down. Yeah. So, for as crazy it is, hopefully she says some like...
she's pretty angry, so I mean, like, and she's obviously not right in the mind, so I don't think she's gonna...
As a whole, scale of 1 to 10, how's your first year been?
I can't say 7, I guess. I'd give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Guys, that's all we got tonight. You remember what your first year was like? For me, I didn't have that high of a high of like that big of a win, but I also didn't have that low of a low in the first year. So if anything, this is foreshadowing for what business can look like, but you just keep finding more of the highs and stop living in the lows and you're good. Cool. All right, everybody, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next Monday.